When you get started playing fighting games, it's not often that you're really aware of the greater community beyond the game that it is that you just started playing. You're usually not aware of the fact that there are people that show up on sometimes a weekly basis, sometimes a monthly basis, that meet up in different parts of your city or state that just play the game that you are playing right now, either for fun, sometimes for money. And it's this greater like aspect of the fighting game community, the foundation of the fighting game community, that I really feel the need to kind of elaborate on in this video. The FGC is a very grassroots scene, and at the very core of our grassrootsness it is the locals. And I feel like it is worth mentioning what it is that you should know before you attend your first local, and some of the things you should definitely keep in mind. So, how do you find events? I guess that's the important place where we need to start this. And the first place that I would recommend that most people go to, Challenge. So on Challenge, you could easily just like go through, you can browse tournaments, events, communities, and you could really just search by game, and you can find like a list upon list of different events for your game in question. And another notable website you can go to is good old Smash.gg. Smash.gg, a lot more of a well-organized, well-structured website. It's really easy to find events by region, by their specific dates of when they're going to be occurring, whether they're online, whether they're offline, etc., etc. This is also the website where you'll see like a bunch of major tournaments hosted, but for the scope of this discussion, we're just going to be focusing on local, so like these smaller scale events. On websites much like Challenge and Smash.gg and their relative equivalents, these are events that you will find that are hosted by players just like you, players that want to try and get a community of people going within their respective area. It could be online, could be within your city, could be within like your given tri-state area in some cases. Another valuable resource that you can go to try and find out different things about your events would be on social media. The FGC is very active on websites like Twitter and Facebook. And in the case of Twitter, you can usually just follow different tournament organizers. They will typically tweet out like links to their event details, the bracket links, that sort of thing, on their given social media profiles. And in some cases, you can even find like lists, like entire lists of TOs that you can just kind of like check up on, and whenever they post something about their events, it'll just typically show up in this list. If you're looking for events in specific regions, some regions have community websites where you can find information about specific events going on, say within a given state or events going on within a given city. There are two notable cases that I can think of for more state-centric community hubs, and the two examples that I can bring up are OhioFGC.com, which is the central hub for everything going on in the Ohio fighting game community, and its sister website, PennFGC, which is the central hub for everything going on in the Pennsylvania fighting game community. So I will include links to all of these bracket websites in the description below. But websites like this give you just like a nice central hub to go to find events going on in your region for your specific game that you play, and just kind of gives you like a good starting point when you're looking for places to try and find places to meet other fighting game players. So once you know what events in your area that you would like to attend, the important thing that you need to know next is the exact location, and you also need to know when exactly that it is that they meet up. So it is important to get a sense of how frequently are these events occurring, because they are typically multiple times a month or sometimes once a month affairs, and it's good to know that going in, because it can kind of help guide a bunch of the other steps that you want to know before planning your attendance to said events. So I'm gonna go ahead and look at Three River Rumble, which is an event held in the Pittsburgh area here on PennFGC. So if you go to their calendar, it gives you the details for the event, the location and whatnot. So if you click on more details, it'll give you more information in regards to like exactly where the venue is, as well as a little bit more about some of the people who put this on. This is a weekly event. It's hosted every single week on Fridays. It gives you an exact time for whenever this event's usually going on. It typically tends to run pretty late. That's the thing you'll typically find for most FGC events. They tend to be evening affairs, and they typically occur from like right as soon as the evening starts to all the way out at night. So these are pretty much like all evening affairs. This is a thing you really want to keep in mind. Of course, you don't have to stay the entire time, but if you ever want to stay, the option is always there for you. And you can also see that this event is put on by the org PGH Smack, which if you ever want to get more information about what's going on in an event outside of what may be given in like in event listings or on the bracket page may give, a good place to go would be to either go to the organization's Twitter or to go and contact one of the TOs for that specific region. So I'm just gonna go down here, I'm gonna check out the guys at Team Smack, and here you'll see that they have like posts for events. Anytime a new event goes up that they're hosting, that they're running, they will usually post what games are being run, when it's going to happen, a link to the bracket link, and all the important details associated therein. When you're attending a local for the first time, there's a ton of things that you're probably going to have questions about that may or may not be directly listed on the events page. When you check the exact location of where the event you plan to attend is located, you may notice that it's in like the middle of a major city, and in which case you may have to be concerned about public parking. Parking may be a little bit of a difficult situation in some cities, so contacting a TO would be a good way to kind of figure out, hey, where should I park here? Does the venue have free parking? Should I try and like park somewhere like relatively close by that may have like a minimal parking fee or maybe no parking fee if you were extremely lucky? And it's always important to try and gain contact with either the TOs or maybe some of the regular attendees. So if you either reply to the post in question for an event, or if you DM the organization on Twitter, they will be more than likely to get back to you, letting you know everything that you would ever possibly want to know about a given event and all the details associated therein with how to actually get to it. So one of the things that you'll actually find whenever you go out and check one of the event details, not all of the fighting game events that you will attend will always be tournaments in particular. Sometimes they will also be just simple casual affairs. I know that currently the Dragon Punch local series hosted in Ohio is a primarily casual affair. So people just come in, just casually play games, come and go as they kind of see fit. Most events that you will find on websites like Channel Launch, Smash GG, and all these other websites, they will primarily be tournament events, but they will also have people there who will show up during the brackets, before the brackets, and sometimes chilling a little bit after the brackets just to play some casuals as well. So even if you see an event that says it's a tournament, you don't always have to like go specifically to compete. If you want to, you could just show up and just play casuals with some of the people that are there whenever they're not competing in a tournament bracket. So even if you feel like a little bit of anxiety about possibly competing in tournaments for the first time, which I may have a video up here about that if you're a little bit concerned about the pressures that may come with entering tournaments for the first time, just know that even if an event listing says that it is a tournament affair, don't be afraid to just go to just like casually interact with people and just socialize and that sort of thing. With that being said, there are still going to be some costs associated if you don't enter a particular tournament. A lot of events that you will see in the FGC will be run in venues that the tournament organizers don't actually own because we don't have money, so we have to borrow these spaces. So because we have to borrow these spaces to run our events, sometimes the owner of the venue that we are hosting our events will require some sort of like venue fee to be paid out to them to allow people entry into our events. Usually you'll say somewhere on here there's a venue fee that you have to pay before attendance. If there is a bracket fee that you have to pay to enter a given tournament bracket, as you'll see here, there is a venue fee for this particular event. It's about $5 a person. Usually the venue fees are really like drastic, like $5 is like pretty standard. Sometimes it's even cheaper. The bracket fees are for, as mentioned, for the tournaments. If there's a bracket fee, that means that there is certainly a prize pool. And the prize pool for a tournament is really just the collection of everyone's bracket fees for the event. And then usually it's split different ways depending on like how many people tend to enter. Sometimes it's a 60-30-10 split. Sometimes it's a 70-20-10 split, meaning first person gets that first amount, so they get 70% of the overall prize pool, and the second place gets 20%, and third place gets 10. Sometimes it's a winner take all if there's like a very small number of people, so those are things to also be considerate of as well. So when you attend an event, just be mindful that there may be fees to just go to the venue, whether you're a competitor or you're just there to play casually. And if you're going to be competing, definitely be aware of the fact that there's going to be a bracket fee associated with your entrance as well. Let's talk a little bit more about some of the things that you should bring to your local outside of some of the obvious stuff that's mentioned on the event details and whatnot. First of all, and I cannot stress this enough, bring your controller. Bring your controller. People are here to play games with you. People are here to compete with you, and they cannot do that if you are borrowing their controllers. So please make sure to bring your own. And on top of that, if you're playing on a wireless controller and you're playing on consoles, y'all know where I'm going with this. Disconnect your controllers from the console before you do anything else. When you are done, disconnect your controllers. All it takes is one accidental press of a home button, and you will ruin someone else's day. You will be literally the worst person imaginable if you don't disconnect your controllers. Someone could be in the middle of grand finals, about to land the game-winning combo, and then you grab your controller out of your backpack. Don't be that guy. Disconnect your controller. And if possible, bring a setup. Bring a setup. Like, fighting games are social affairs. Like, if you have a game that you want to play with other people and you think other people might be interested in playing the game with you and it's not represented at your event, bring a setup. Bring a setup. Like, bring your monitor, like, console. I'm not asking you to bring your PC, because bringing your PC is kind of like overkill. But if you have like a console or something, please bring it. Bring a setup. Like right now, as my second monitor on my screen, I have like a small little portable monitor that just kind of like mounts on top of my PS4. And whenever I'm not streaming and want to go to locals and stuff, I just take my PS4, that monitor, a little like surge protector and whatnot, and I just pack it up, bring it over to events with me, and now we have like an extra Street Fighter V setup, or a Sam Show setup, or a Guilty Gear Strive setup. So if there's a game that you have that you want to bring and you think other people want to play the game with you, don't be afraid to bring a setup. Bringing setup is always a nice thing. Fighting games are social affairs. At the end of the day, people are there to want to play games. So if there's a game you want to play, just bring it. Just bring it. This is another thing that is worth mentioning that I feel like will probably get neglected in most videos that you will probably see about attending locals. As mentioned before, locals tend to be all evening affairs. So you're out from whatever time that the local starts and however long it takes for you to commute to said local to whatever time that local is finished or whenever you feel like leaving. So it goes without saying, you're probably gonna be hungry when things are done. So it's always worth checking to see what places are nearby to go and get food. It's always worth checking. Usually the regulars there will also be aware of what food places are in the area, and even then some people might like kind of carpool together to go and get food afterwards, or they'll like all like drive together to go and get food afterwards. And it's just like, it's a nice little social aspect to locals, and I feel like it doesn't really get talked about too much, but it's like a really big like community building thing as far as going to locals. Like, yeah, you having conversations during the event and just like playing games with each other, like that is like a really big bonding experience in and of itself. But there's hardly a better bonding experience between you and another human being when you're both eating food together. It's just a way to get to know the people around you. And also the regulars will be aware of like some of the more like local food places. So if you're like visiting a town or a city that you're not quite too familiar with, a bunch of the regular attendees there will be familiar with some of the food in your area, so you might get exposed to some new places, some new experiences that you may not have really known about otherwise. The first time I've been to any the main the big Ohio restaurants, the first time I went to those places was by going to FGC events. So make sure you have money for food. Make sure you know some food places that are nearby, and even ask if some people at the event are going to be going out and getting food afterwards. And if you've had a good time hanging out with them, consider continuing to hang out with them as you go and get food. It's one of the big community aspects of being in the fighting game community. More than just ranting with each other on Twitter, but that's a discussion for another day. So if you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to go ahead and leave a like on this video if this helped you out at all, and also be sure to leave any questions that you may have for me in the comments section. And also be sure to ask me any additional questions that you might have on Discord. I will include a link to my Discord as well. Consider checking out one of the recommended videos that will be on screen right now. It'll probably be something to do with FGC content creation or arcade stick modding or something like that. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. I've been ShaolinPretzels, and as always, stay salty.